After completing my chemotherapy treatment for breast cancer in the middle of May this year, my radiation oncologist decided to shorten my radiation therapy to 18 sessions instead of 30 because of the threat of COVID-19. With this, I completed my radiation in the middle of August. Throughout my treatments, we had always been careful going to the hospital and back. My husband has also been working from home since the start of the quarantine, and whenever he went out, he was always careful to wear a mask, disinfect, and to maintain a safe physical distance from other people. He also made sure to avoid crowded places, and so we were surprised when just a couple of weeks after my last radiation, some of us exhibited COVID-19 symptoms. It all started with our eldest, who is 19 years old. Well, we took him in not long after the pandemic started because he used to work in a mall in another city as a salesperson, but he was forced to stop working when all the malls closed down. Our helper mentioned in passing that he had fever but was okay the following day, so we did not take it too seriously. However, after 3 days, I suddenly had fever and felt like I had a flu. The fever lasted only a day, and I felt a little better the following day. It was while we were having breakfast that morning when our eldest commented that he could not taste or smell anything. I suddenly recalled the time when I called him out for going to a nearby store with our helper, both of them not wearing masks. It dawned on me that they might have done this a few other times before. He felt offended when I told him we needed to have a swab test because he had COVID symptoms, and it's possible that I also caught it from him. He said later that he felt that way because he could not believe he could catch the virus as he rarely went out. The following day, it was my 12-year-old son who was feeling ill and had fever himself. When I sent a message to my parents and siblings about what we were experiencing, they advised us to get ourselves tested right away. That way, we could get all the medical help that we need as COVID patients if ever the results would turn out positive and our symptoms get worse. I knew too well the risk that I was in since I had just completed chemo and radiation. My PET CT scan also showed that I contracted pneumonitis after the chemotherapy that I went through. But more than that, I was worried about my children who are too young to experience this kind of sickness. And also my husband, who has been hospitalized many times before because of asthma-related illnesses. Our satellite pastor in CCF Salitran, along with his family, had tested positive for COVID earlier. And it was this incident that pushed the elders of our church to form a COVID-19 response team that would assist church members who would test positive for COVID. Through one of the doctors who was part of that team, we were able to secure referrals for RT-PCR test. This allowed us to have our HMO pay for our tests, which was a big deal for us because in the nearest hospital, the test costs about 10,000 pesos for each person, and there were 5 of us. The results were sent to me via email 3 days after the test, and the 3 of us who first got swabbed for COVID were positive. When I saw the results, I felt a stabbing pain in my chest and could not help but cry to the Lord, "Lord, not my kids. I can take anything, but not my kids." Even before my husband and my youngest child had their tests and results some days later, I knew that they would also test positive because of the symptoms that they were experiencing not long after ours. Most of us had also been staying together in one room the entire summer so we could have only one air conditioning unit running and save on electricity, so I thought it was inevitable. When I first learned I had breast cancer, I asked the Lord some questions. but I did not feel so much pain in my heart as I felt when I realized that my kids had COVID. However, my cancer experience also reminded me of how sovereign, how good, and how faithful God is. I remembered how the Lord had been faithful in providing for all my needs so I could get all the treatments that I needed for cancer. And true enough, the Lord was with us all the way. It had not been easy for me because I had to take care of everybody even if I wasn't feeling so good myself. I also had to send home our helper so she would not catch our virus, so we were left to take care of ourselves. I had to make sure everybody takes the medicines and vitamins and eat right to help them recover from their sickness, especially those who were experiencing fever and other symptoms. It was especially difficult when my youngest son had consistently high fever and dry cough that made it difficult for him to breathe somehow. We could not send him to a hospital that time because his test result had not yet arrived, so my husband and I took turns taking care of him. It was also difficult when my husband's symptoms started getting worse. His fever went on and off for a while, and he could not get out for a few days. I had to monitor his breathing and watch out for any signs of asthma attack or pneumonia. Not long after that, my other son had severe skin allergy, and he also started having fever again. He also complained of sore throat, so I checked his throat and discovered that his tonsils were swollen. That period left me feeling physically and emotionally exhausted, drained, helpless, and desperate all at the same time. And I had to remind myself that I cannot get stressed. Otherwise, my cancer might kick in again. I was also beginning to feel resentful against our local government unit for not helping us by taking us to a quarantine facility so that we could all be taken care of. I heard that in the nearby city, their LGU would make sure to isolate those who have COVID right away and put them in quarantine facilities so that they could recover fast. And it's also to control the spread of the virus. But in our case, we were just advised to stay home while our LGU, our city health officer, checked on our status from time to time. And it also took some time before they were able to bring us provisions, but we were not allowed to go out yet. During this period, I would often pray to God for strength and wisdom. I also kept singing about God's goodness, faithfulness, and mighty power, and made sure to spend time reading His Word and listening to Sunday preachings to keep me spiritually strong. Throughout all of this, God reminded me to put my trust in Jesus instead of men or the government, because He can do more than I could ever ask or imagine. True enough, He sent help through my family, my friends, and church mates who brought us medicines, vitamins, food, and financial assistance, even if we were not asking. They also checked on us from time to time to make sure we were okay, and prayed for us every day until we all got well. One other doctor from the church was also very helpful in providing for us prescriptions for medicines that we needed. And after 3 weeks of home quarantine, everybody was feeling much better. I was finally able to rest and reflect on everything that happened. I was the most vulnerable among us, but God gave me the strength to take care of everyone. My husband also did not experience any asthma attacks during his sickness, and our younger kids were able to fully recover just in time for the start of the school year. We have experienced God's sovereign power and love, and He has done great things. He surely made a lot of miracles in our family, and for this, we are very grateful. To God be all the glory and honor for all the things He has done in our lives.